Let me adjust it. Welcome to the Bella Vista Gardening Program. I'm Jerry Horner, and with me today is Frank Zimmermann. She is a fellow member of the Bella Vista Garden Club. And today we're going to be talking about upcoming events. There's not too many upcoming events in September. You have to just kind of watch the papers for any announcements of things. And we're also going to be talking about native plants and how important they are to have in your garden. And also what to do in your garden for the month of September. There's some things we have to attend to. So, like I said, the upcoming events, there's not really too many scheduled events that I'm aware of, but like I said, you can check your local papers and see if there's something, you know, coming up. There's seminars all the time at different places, and we have the Bella Vista Garden Club Fall Plant Sale is coming up on October 1st. So that's going to be from 8 to 1 at Allen's parking lot, Allen's Foods. We had it there last year, and it was wonderful attendance because it was just so accessible. And we'll have hostas, trees, shrubs, perennials, some types of iris, several iris, some surprise lilies probably, a variety of bulbs. And our feature bulb, of course, will be the Bella Vista daffodil. And we planted, I don't know, 7,000 or 8,000 bulbs last year all around Bella Vista. And so we sold out at the plant sale in about 15 minutes.
Oh, yes. So
we ordered more. So we'll have more of the Bella Vista daffodils to purchase. So
it still wouldn't hurt to come early, though.
Oh, yeah. Be there early because they'll sell out again, I'm sure. So it's a beautiful daffodil. So, but the main thing we have to talk about is the native plants and how important they are. You know, the emphasis has been on native plants the past couple of years, especially in the garden club and master gardeners, and it's just so important. And you don't realize how, you know, the effect it has when you don't have native plants in your garden.
Right, and native, of course, are native to this area, Ozark native plants. And when many people talk about native plants, they talk about that they're easier to grow and maintain because they know the area, they've survived here for hundreds of years, provided that you remember the basics, that you plant prairie plants in the sun and woodland plants in the shade. And deer may nibble a new shoot, but they'll largely leave plants alone, actually.
They're pretty deer resistant, basically.
But not only do plants belong here as native plants, but they're part of the whole ecosystem. The insects, the birds, and the butterflies, the bees and other pollinators really thrive on these, and it's all part of a circle of nature.
Right.
And our urban development or suburban development hasn't helped things.
Now, every time we take trees out and, you know, put in concrete, it affects the ecosystem.
Right. And when you attract birds to your yard with plants that bear fruit and attract insects, you actually are providing natural insect control in more ways than you might realize.
Yes, because the birds are eating the insects, which they need to survive, and you know we have to have those insects in our garden. But if you have any doubt about the importance of native plants in your garden, you really should read the book Bringing Nature Home: How You Can Sustain Wildlife with Native Plants. And this is the book. It's by Douglas W. Tallamy, and he's an entomologist up in University of Delaware. And I was fortunate enough to go to a seminar that he had at Crystal Bridges, and it was just amazing how important these native plants are to us.
Oh,
you
yes.
just don't realize. They said that it takes about 6,000 to 9,000 caterpillars to feed just one nesting of chickadees. And not only do they feed them as their babies, but after they're, hatched, they come out and feed. So we have some photos here. You can see the chickadee feeding of a fledgling. It's already fledged, but he's still feeding the caterpillars. So,
and they don't feed from the bird feeder. I mean, you might see them going to the bird feeder for seeds.
Well, they're eating the sunflower seeds, but they're
Right.
not feeding it to their babies.
No, you wouldn't feed an infant beef jerky.
No, you wouldn't. But anyway, it's just amazing how many caterpillars it takes just to feed one nesting, and that's just the chickadee, one nesting of chickadee.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they said that in the past, 50 years, that we've lost about 30% of our songbirds because we're putting concrete and taking out trees, and it's just amazing. So the oak trees are mainly the biggest source of the.
We have some tips to help you plan your fall garden chores around birds and to beef up your yard for the next spring. Do you want to?
Well, first of all, you don't want to mow your goldenrods because their seeds will be edible, and they shelter insect larvae inside those hard round galls. So you don't want to mow your goldenrod if you have goldenrod. And goldenrod's not the allergen that causes all the hay fever. It's the ragweed.
Ragweed
that causes that. So goldenrod is a good plant to have, and woodpeckers like the goldenrod seeds too. And then plant at least one tree or shrub in your yard, and consider it's native. There's a leatherwood plant that is, I think it's the native plant of the year. It's a leatherwood, and it's deciduous. It loses its leaves in the fall, but it's a beautiful shrub and it takes shade. It's a shade shrub. So if you have a shady spot around your house, for a foundation plant, this is be a wonderful plant to have, and it's a good native.
I have a leatherwood. I also have a serviceberry and a smoke tree. So far, I'm still working on more native plants. Yeah, we all have a
few things in our garden, and we're not saying you have to take out every plant and put in all natives. That's not feasible for everyone.
No.
But you want to, if you're adding something to your garden or you have to replace something, think about the natives first.
And as we get into the fall, resist the urge to deadhead the last round of spent flowers. Those last cone flowers or something. If you leave the seeds in there, the birds can continue to enjoy them and eat them. And they're good for the migrating birds because, of course, that's happening in the fall.
Right.
And then phase out the pesticides in your yard. That means on your lawn. If you have to use a little bit of control something on a pine tree, just try to narrow it down to that pine tree if you must. It will really let the birds themselves help with the pest control.
Right.
An estimated 72 million birds are killed each year in the United States alone. That's 72 million because of pesticides. And that doesn't include the babies who may perish because their parents have died.
That's right.
Or the birds that are poisoned by eating contaminated insects and worms.
Yeah, if you spray the lawn with insecticide, you're putting poison on that lawn. So.
And there's one tree that we have lots of.
Oh, there's it's the oak tree, and that is probably the largest host for caterpillars of various kinds. They have found that there's over 500 species of caterpillars for butterflies, moths, and skippers in the larvae in the oak tree. And if you compare that to, say, a Japanese maple
Right.
that came over from Japan, they may have 4 or 5 species, where this oak tree has over 500. So this oak tree is just a buffet, you know, for the birds to get their food for their babies. So
Right.
every oak tree we lose a lot of food for our birds.
Right.
It's really
Right.
sad.
And that includes the dead oak trees as well as the ones
Well,
with
the
the
dead
leaves.
ones usually will harbor the
nest.
nest, and for woodpeckers and owls. So,
But the leaves are necessary
but
for
the leaves,
the larva.
that's where they lay their eggs, you know, on the bottom of the leaf, and then they come out as caterpillars. So,
Well,
and
we-
with so many songbirds leaving, you know, you don't want to lose all your songbirds, and they
Right.
eat out of these oak trees. And then here's some other native plants that will attract birds to your yard.
Yes, the black-eyed Susan, a very familiar plant, Rudbeckia of any kind. It's colorful, and in the fall and winter, the birds feed on the seed heads.
And you see this everywhere almost.
Oh, yes.
And it does spread. And you said you had it in your garden, and it kind of spread.
Yes, it definitely spread very much.
So you have to, you know, put it in an area where you know you're going to control it, or
Yes.
or be able to, so it won't take
it
over. But
pops up by itself, so let it pop up.
right. And then the next one is that little blue stream, or little blue stem. It's the shelter, and it's, you know, for plant, and it's good background for other taller perennials. It's just a wonderful little grass, and it's native, and you know, it's a different look than your normal grasses. So you can get a lot of different diversity in your native plants.
About little blue stem, it is 3 to 4 feet tall, and it clumps. It's not just going to spread on you. It will grow in a clump, and then you can divide it and have more little blue stem. But we have a number in our yard.
Yeah, it's really a nice accent plant.
Yes.
And then the next one is your
Oh,
daisies and your grasses and purple coneflowers.
they're just a magnet for butterflies and songbirds.
yeah.
I mean, if you have a mix like that, you have insects in there that will attract the birds and butterflies, and it'll look pretty too. Native plants don't have to be scraggly looking.
Right. And that's the other thing on the Missouri wildflower nursery in Jefferson City, Missouri. If you go online, their catalog rates all the native plants with stars, where like a 4-star would be great in your front yard, maybe a 1-star would be good in the back, you know, maybe in a little butterfly garden or something. It may not be attractive all year or be a little bit straggly, but they rate those plants, so you know that when you buy this plant or plant this plant, it's going to be showy, or it's just going to be beneficial, one or the other. So that's a great source.
And then we have one more flower that just really grows,
Oh, I love this one.
yes, all by itself. It's self-seeding.
Yes, I have a big colony of them, and it just keeps growing. And it's
The columbine.
columbine, the native columbine.
Yes.
And the hummingbirds like it too. They get
Yes.
in there and they get the nectar, you know, that little tubular flower.
Yes,
So,
and so do the bees.
yeah, the bees. And that's self-seeding. It'll seed, you know, a little clump or so, and it blooms in spring, and then it kind of, some of mine kind of disappear, and other
Yes.
ones kind of stay evergreen, but it's a really pretty little plant.
Yes.
It's great native.
Now, the Master Naturalists held a native plant seminar recently, and
They
I think you
did.
have more information about that.
Yes, I wasn't able to attend, but they had a day-long seminar on native plants, and they had a lot of handouts, and I have all the handouts here. And some of the handouts related to Missouri natives, but we're so close to the border of Missouri that we could, you know, easily adapt any of the Missouri natives. Because
Yes.
you know, the plants don't have a line they don't cross.
Yes,
cross.
they don't stop at the state
No,
line.
they don't stop. They cross state lines. So any of the Missouri or southern Missouri natives would do quite well here because they're probably found here too.
Yes.
So we'll be putting all of these handouts on our website, the bellavistagardenclub.com, and hopefully within the next week or so we'll have all these handouts. But they're just wonderful resources. One is a 10-page list of different trees and shrubs, if they need sun or shade, and if they're clumping, if they do dry soil, if they form a colony. It's all noted in there. So this is going to be a wonderful resource.
Right. To go to our bellavistagardenclub.org website.
.com.
Yes.
.com, yeah. So, like I said, if you just add 1 or 2 plants into your garden year, just as a native plant, and then, like I said, we're going to have more native plants available at the plant sale, and there are more nurseries carrying native plants because people are asking for them. So, and if you do want a native plant, ask your nursery to order it. You know, they can order native plants and get them in, so we can get more native plants all the time.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we'll get these all on the website, and then also on our website we do have some links for native plants in our links
yes,
page.
we do.
That you can just go to. There's Grow Native is a real big organization and has a lot of information on native plants. So
it has a plant finder too. If you have a shady area or in certain soil characteristics, you can go in and key that in and find the plants that will suit that area.
And the Missouri Botanical Garden also has some native plants on their listings, with the descriptions and how they grow, and that's another good resource.
Yeah.
So we all can grow some native plants and feed the birds and feed the insects and have a good ecosystem. And you know, there's some plants that are the flowers are designed so that only one species of an insect can pollinate them based on the characteristics of that insect. You know, it's just amazing when you look at some of the natural combinations of insects and plants, how they're just tied together. It's just like the monarch butterfly.
Right.
Will only leave eggs on the milkweed.
And certain varieties of milkweed, not every
and
one.
They won't leave their eggs on anything else, and they won't eat anything else. So if that milkweed disappears, we won't have monarchs. And I know that's been a big emphasis in the country, or in the world basically, for the past couple years, because the monarch population's been decreasing, and we're just losing our milkweeds.
And they'll be coming through in September. They think their migration ends by the first part of October.
So we do have, I think we got some information on our website too about the monarchs, because I know Allison's been really involved in the monarchs, and we're trying to have the milkweed available at the plant sales.
Yes.
And it's very hard to grow from seed. It's just a hard plant to propagate. So,
well, I'm going to try this winter outside, actually putting them. So I'll report back.
Right. We'll have to see what happens after we try it. But our success rate was like 30% of the seeds last spring. So it's not easy to grow the milkweeds. But once they're established, you know, they make a colony, and they grow in the woods, in the wild, so we don't have to worry about watering them. And they can take droughts. So we just need to plant more milkweed. So, but the other things we have to do in your garden, there's always things we have to do every month.
Yes, and September, you know, finally, well, it still is a little hot, but we're really seeing the beginnings of fall. And when you have annuals and herbs, keep deadheading often so that you have continued bloom, and continue to fertilize in September. Think about whether you want to save plants or seeds from the garden for next year. And if you have herbs, dry the herbs for cooking in the winter months.
Right, so you can take those geraniums in the garage and then bring them out in the fall, you know, in the spring. So for some of the annuals. Now your perennials, you want to deadhead your blooms on the perennials too. And you need to divide them if they get crowded, and if they get overgrown, you need to divide them. And it's a good time to share with neighbors or move them to another location. And it's a good time to divide the spring blooming perennials. Iris and peonies really like to be divided in the fall, and daylilies also. But they benefit from dividing in the fall. They have that winter to set those roots. We don't have real, severe winters here where it's 20 below, so they can set those roots in the fall and the winter, and then in the spring they'll have a good start. And then just water, watch your water. If you don't have any rain, we need to still water. And mums are good times. September's a time to look for mums and plant mums where you need some color. And then
now, if you have roses, the Japanese beetles have come and gone, and
I didn't have too many this year.
We're glad they're gone.
Yeah.
And there should be a new flush of blooms for the next few months on your roses.
Right.
Keep deadheading and check for black spot, but stop fertilizing after early September.
Yeah, because if you fertilize too late, then you have that winter growth coming out that'll freeze, and it's not good. So, in the lawns, you'd have to just set deep requiring once a week. We need about an inch of rain, and late September is a good time to overseed the fescue. And I just heard a tip from our lawn service we have. They wanted to overseed our lawn, and they said what you need to do is, if you're overseeding fescue, is freeze your seed for 2 days, and that stratifies it. And I had never heard of stratifying lawn seed before, but if you freeze it for 2 days, that helps break that outer casing, the husk, and it will germinate easier.
Oh,
so,
well, that's good news.
That's a new tip I hadn't heard before. So if you're going to, overseed your fescue, just put your seed in the freezer for a couple days. So, and it's a good time for the fall pre-emergent herbicides. They just help control those spring weeds. But use them judiciously. If you don't have a lot of weeds, you may not need to do that. But if you do have weeds, you need to do that in September.
And this is a good time to look at your trees and shrubs too. Of course, we said it was a good time for planting them later in September when the weather really cools. It's most successful because the plant's energy goes to the roots. And replenish the mulch around trees and shrubs. Leave about an inch or two, though, away from the trunk or stem.
Yeah, because if it's too close, then you have moisture there, and you could have insects chewing on your stems and trunks, and so. And vegetables, this is a time you want to plant your fall crop, and then get all your harvesting of your summer crop. They're probably, there's still a lot of tomatoes coming out, I think. But it's getting a little cooler, so I think getting some tomatoes. But you can plant your mustard and your spinach and lettuce. They're more cool season crops, and you can do turnips and radishes till about mid-September. Start planting those, and keep your diseases and pests under control. You want to clean up your garden at the end of the year, and remove all the old dead leaves and stems, and pull out your tomato plants, put them in the trash. Don't put them in your compost, because if you have any of that blight or whatever, it'll just go in your compost. So, and don't forget to rotate your crops. Don't plant the same thing every year in the same place, because you're just inviting some, diseases to come in.
Yes.
So.
Remember what happened to the cotton crop?
Oh, yeah. They just kept planting in the same place over and over, and it didn't work too well after a while.
Now, this is also a good time to think what we were saying about the shrubs and trees and the energy going down into the roots also applies to invasive plants. So if you gently spray them, don't overspray so that it hits other things, because we do want to reduce the use of some chemicals. But I have my eye on our blackberry bushes in our backyard. I'm going to spray them now so that then the plant will do the work and suck the pest herbicide down into the root system.
Right.
And if you have honeysuckle, bush honeysuckle, that's a terribly invasive plant.
Right.
Or privet, poison ivy. This is a really good time to spray those.
Right. And you can also, on some of your less woody plants, you could use vinegar
Yes, that's true.
instead of a Roundup or one of the
Yes.
pesticide that are dangerous. But vinegar is,
Yes.
but it's the concentrated vinegar you get at the nursery.
Uh-huh.
And then if you mix it with a little soap or a little molasses to make it sticky,
Yes.
it'll stick to the plant more. So, try the vinegar on some things, and if it's not a real huge plant, or if it's a more tender plant, it'll kill the plant.
That's good.
So, and if you have any questions about gardening in September, the Master Gardener's website is bentoncountygardening.org, and it's filled with gardening information along with our Bella Vista Garden Club website. And we're starting up our year again in September. Bella Vista Garden Club will start meeting in September, and we meet in September, October, and then we take a break in November, and then have our Christmas luncheon, and then we meet again starting in January, February, March, April.
And the date of our first meeting is the 28th.
28th. It's
Wednesday
the
of the
fourth
28th.
Wednesday of the month is always our meeting dated. And it's at the United Lutheran Church on Cooper Road, and starts at 11. We have a little
Yes.
social time, and then we have a little start of the meeting, and then
Isn't the mayor coming?
this September meeting we have Mayor Christie coming, and he's going to be talking about beautification of Bella Vista. And of course our president, Tony LaCosse, is his theme is putting the beauty back in Bella. So we have to consider where we're going to beautify the city. So we have a lot of projects coming up, I think, this year,
Yes.
new projects to beautify Bella Vista in different areas, and along with what we're doing now with the cemetery and the Veterans Wall and the
Welcome Center.
Welcome Center. We have a lot of gardens that we maintain, but we want to increase the beauty of Bella Vista
Yeah.
and spread it around some
Yes.
more. So anyway, guests are always welcome to the meeting, and we have a light luncheon. I think it's the board's putting on the salad buffet
Yes.
luncheon this month in September, and it's always great food.
Yes.
And so just join us, and guests are always welcome. You don't have to be a member, and we always have good programs about horticulture and design and anything to do with floral.
Yes.
So anyway, well, thank you, Fran, for joining me, and I'm always glad you're here with us to share all your wonderful information, and I know you're a native plant enthusiast.
Yes.
You really are, and it's something we all should be doing in our garden. And then I know you've been also doing some hosting for us once in a while on the
Yes.
show, and I appreciate
You're
that
welcome.
too. So the more information we share, the more we like it, because gardeners just love to share information and tips and so forth. So anyway, the more we can spread the information, the better. So, but I hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope you'll join us next month. And until then, don't forget to stop and smell the roses.